Welcome to the NBAV podcast.
Welcome back to NBAV, the NBA Avenue podcast, and let's do a very, very quick run-through of all of the news, including the most current news, the most updated, most recent signing at the time of this podcast, which is at 6:41 Eastern on Monday evening, which is the signing of Jason Tatum. Now, we're going to go through all of the signings. We'll have plenty of time throughout the entire offseason, but let's just do a quick run-through of the good deals, the bad deals, and some of the ones that we're going to have to do a lot more thinking about to try and make sense of. But first of all, the Celtics have been very, very busy re-signing their guys as they already have the championship team, and they look to fortify that and just keep that at that same level, and perhaps maybe even a drop better, but the players themselves will probably continue to get a little bit better, and that's going to be the real way the Celtics continue to improve over the next couple of years. And Jason Tatum signed the biggest contract in NBA history. It's a $315 million deal over the course of 5 years at $63 million per year. Then coming in second so far, you have Scottie Barnes from the Raptors. They perhaps were a little trigger happy, and they did this a little early. Scottie Barnes, certainly not in that caliber of player as Jason Tatum. You could maybe wager that he's better on the defensive end, but certainly nowhere near as effective on the offensive end, nowhere near the kind of player. So he's getting $270 million for the same 5 years at $9 million less than Tatum, $54 million per year. The Raptors kind of making their bed saying, with Scottie Barnes as our top dog, we're never really going to make it that far. So unfortunately for the Toronto Raptors, it's hard to understand exactly what they're doing, signing all of these guys to high-priced contracts so early on in their career. It seems like really the way to move forward in the NBA is to have your young guys making less money, and then when you have the championship team, that's the point where you re-sign the guys to their max deals. Seems like the Raptors are kind of doing it the opposite way, and I don't see how they're possibly going to build out a championship roster at any point in the next, in Scottie Barnes' future of this contract. In the next 5 years, the Raptors will not be competing for a championship. Then you had where it started to get interesting. The next highest paid total of any player signing so far is Paul George. He ends up making the move to Philadelphia, and there were really two teams that I saw as a good option for Paul George to go to, where you could actually make a case. I'm not saying that this is actually true, but you can make a case that he's putting them over the hump to where they could at least compete for a title. Not that they would be a favorite, but where they could compete. And those two teams would be the Golden State Warriors or the Philadelphia 76ers. And Paul George did that. He went to the Sixers. The Warriors apparently were trying, but in the end, he does go to the Sixers. Now, the Sixers only have about they only have about 5 guys so far signed to their roster. They have Embiid. They have Maxey, who we're going to get to in a couple of players from now. They have Paul George. So that's a nice big 3 right there. And then after that, they also signed Oubre. They signed Oubre, and outside of that, they really don't have too much else going on the roster. They still have to fill out the entire rest of the roster. They basically only had Embiid signed onto the team, and now, of course, they brought back Maxey and they brought back Paul George. They brought Paul George over for the first time, but they lost virtually everybody else. So, yes, they are going to have a very top-heavy team. That's going to be a similar sort of situation to the way the Phoenix Suns were constructed last year, where they had Durant, yes, they had Booker, and they had Beal. They even had Nurkic, and they had Grayson Allen, and after that, there was really nobody else left on the team who could really, maybe Royce O'Neal, you could say, but there was a very top-heavy team, and then 1 or 2 injuries, and you are essentially sunk for the year. So that's definitely going to be the fire that they're playing with, is that you're going to need all of your good players to be healthy, because you're not going to have much out of the top few good players that you have who are commanding the entire salary. So then we move on to Pascal Siakam. This was an old one, but he did sign a $189.5 million contract for 4 years, making $47.375 million per year, roughly. You have Tyrese Maxey, the aforementioned Tyrese Maxey, signing the 204 5-year maximum contract, making a little bit less than Paul George, and he's going to be there for 1 year longer than Paul George. Then you have the Raptors continuing their mysterious ways, signing Emmanuel Quickley to a $175 million deal for 5 years. $35 million a year for Maxey, for $35 million a year for Quickley certainly seems to be more than anyone else would have paid him. So I'm not sure who the Raptors were bidding against here, and they now have Scottie Barnes and Emmanuel Quickley for the long term for the next 5 seasons. Then you have the Clippers bringing back James Harden. They're going to be a weaker team, so this is more so, I guess, perhaps just a ploy to keep people coming to their new arena. That's kind of the move for them. It doesn't really seem like the Clippers are going to be able to compete in any meaningful way now that Paul George is gone and Kawhi Leonard is getting older and James Harden is getting older. It seems like they were trending in the wrong direction, and now they're going even quicker into the wrong direction. So kind of a meaningless signing, but it means something to James Harden because he's getting another $35 million per year for the next 2 seasons. So you at least have to be happy for James Harden, and I'll probably be going to many more clubs, taking out some of those dollars. Then you have the Celtics continuing their ways, extending their entire team. They now extended Derek White to $125 million over the next 4 years. 125.9 is the exact number, and that's over $31 million per year for Derek White. He really deserves that. He was a big part of their championship team, and they're going to keep it moving. Then you have kind of the next most exciting after the Paul George is you have the Isaiah Hartenstein. And this is really exciting because the Thunder now are going to be the best team in the Western Conference. They're going to have the best roster at the very least. What they do with it is up to anybody's guess, but most likely they're going to be the best team in the West. They might even be the best team in the entire NBA. We're going to do another podcast on that a little bit later on, but Hartenstein going to the Thunder is just completing perfection. Absolute perfection. They brought in Caruso and they brought in Hartenstein. It's just, it couldn't be any better. They have Chet Holmgren, and now they're going to have Isaiah Hartenstein, who plays every game, plays defense, plays offense very well, great floater. He's a really complete player. Yes, he got dominated by Joel Embiid in the playoffs, but who really is not going to get dominated by Embiid? And to help him, he's going to have Chet Holmgren, who could provide a little bit more length than he's able to give. So Hartenstein, look, if they end up facing Philly in the finals, yes, you don't want Hartenstein defending Embiid, but other than that, this is a picture-perfect signing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They saved up, and then when the moment came, they pounced, and it's not even a deal that really took too much. It's $29 million per year. So 3 years, 29 per at 87 in total. Hartenstein, look, 29 million, almost 30 million a year for Hartenstein. It's a guy who plays, and it's to a team that had the money to get him. So they maybe overpaid a tiny drop, but it's going to be worth every single penny for this team as they compete for an NBA championship this year, next year, the year after. This is going to be a long championship window for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And if they don't end up winning a chip, at least one, it'll certainly mean that a lot of circumstances hit that team that were certainly unexpected. Then you have Tobias Harris taking the money from the only team that would probably give it to him. $52 million, 2 years, so that's $26 million per year to go to the Pistons and to rot away in Detroit. Then you have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a massive, massive hit for the Denver Nuggets, losing for the second straight year an important member of their championship team. First they lost Bruce Brown, now they lost Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. 3 years, $66 million, it's $22 million per year, and he's going to go to the Magic, and he's going to make the Magic a lot better. Because the 3-and-D that he presents is huge, and he showed that. He's been a part of 2 different NBA champions, the Lakers and the Nuggets, and he was at times the third best player on the Nuggets this past season in the playoffs. There were other times where Aaron Gordon was the third best, but there were other moments where the guy who was able to score and be more reliable was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So a huge pickup for Orlando. He's going to be able to defend alongside Jalen Suggs and, of course, Banchero. It's just another massive threat on this Orlando Magic team. It's the kind of guy who you need on the wing to finish out your roster if you want to really compete at that next level. A huge signing for Orlando. And in many ways, I would say that it's a better signing for them to spend less money and bring in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope than it would have been had they signed Paul George. That's just my opinion. Then you have what was a bit of a surprise to me. It was Malik Monk re-signing at a very reasonable number. $19.5 million per year for the next 4 seasons. Malik Monk. This guy's one of the most electric scorers in the NBA. At times, he's the best player on the team. Yeah, there are other times where De'Aaron Fox is the best player on the court, but there are stretches of games where Malik Monk, and there are games where overall Malik Monk is the guy who plays the best for that Kings team. He's so vital, so important, and he's making $10 million less per year than Hartenstein. I mean, is Hartenstein that much better than Malik Monk? I don't think so. He's making, $7 million less per year roughly than Tobias Harris. He's making less than Contavious Caldwell-Pope. He's making less than Emmanuel Quickly. Malik Monk is a better player than, I believe, all those players who I just named. So it's really surprising that the Kings were able to get him to return. I wish Malik Monk would have gone elsewhere in free agency. I think it would have made things interesting. But it's a massive stroke of luck or skill or whatever you want to call it that Sacramento was able to bring him back, and it was vital for them. Extremely vital. And they lost other pieces. They traded away other pieces from their team. They lost Davion Mitchell. They lost Vezenkov. And those were good players. I don't understand why Sacramento traded them away, but they did. And at least they were able to retain Malik Monk. Then you have the Bulls, just absolutely stupefying, mystifying fashion. They offer $90 million to Patrick Williams. I don't think Patrick Williams, had he signed a 20-year contract, would have gotten $90 million. So for them to give $90 million for 5 years at $18 million per year, it just does not make any sense for Chicago. Don't know why they did it. Then you have the big ticket item, Klay Thompson finally leaving his Splash Brother partner Steph Curry behind, leaving the Warriors behind. And it seems like it was really kind of a sour ending here. It seems like he was insulted. And he took even less money than the Warriors could have given him, $50 million, 3 years, $16.6667 million bucks for Klay Thompson to go over to the Mavericks and compete for a championship. I don't know all the reasons why this happened. I guess things will come out over time. But is this going to work for Dallas? Sure it will. Dallas has a pretty stacked team, and Klay Thompson's going to be able to do less and do more efficiently, meaning he's going to have less that he's responsible to do, and therefore he's going to be able to do those things better because he doesn't need to run here, there, and everywhere in order to get shots. He doesn't need to create as much for himself. The ball is primarily in the hands of Luka, and then after that, it'll be primarily in the hands of Kyrie, and Klay is going to catch and shoot. And there have been games in Klay's career where he's been known as the guy who scored the most points with the fewest dribbles. So considering that that's his skill set, it'll work out pretty nicely for him. He's not going to play well every game. He is getting older and older and older, but he's going to come back with a vengeance. Hopefully he's going to have another injury-free season. And if he does, he should be able to help this team at a very reasonable $16.6 million per year for 3 years. So a massive achievement here for the Dallas Mavericks as they try to get back to the title. Then Obi Toppin, 4 years, $60 million deal for the Pacers. A great deal. A great deal. A great extension there for the, or I shouldn't say extension because he was a free agent of sorts. I think he was restricted, but he ends up getting more money for himself. I believe he could have got even more somewhere else, but hey, he gets the $60 million deal, $15 million per for the next 4. A great deal for the Pacers. Then you have Richaun Holmes going back to the Washington Wizards at $25.9 million. He's going to be a 2-year deal, almost $13 million per year. I don't know who was offering Richaun Holmes that kind of money, but Washington did. Then you have DeAnthony Melton making his way over to the Warriors for $12.8 million, just a 1-year deal for DeAnthony Melton. I didn't really think DeAnthony Melton was this good, but I guess the Warriors do, and they're taking a swing on Melton. I don't know if that was the guy I would have spent my almost $13 million budget on, but hey, the Warriors made their bed with this one, and they're going with Melton. Then you have Royce O'Neal, $44 million, $11 million per year for the next 4 seasons to go back to Phoenix. I understand that Phoenix wanted Royce O'Neal back, but that's just a pretty penny to pay for him. I don't really understand why the Suns think Royce O'Neal is worth that much cash. Then you have a very interesting move, Chris Paul. 1 year, $11 million to go play with the Spurs. Now, someone who I respect a lot, Mike Francesa, does not like this deal. I heard him talk about it earlier today because he says, I don't know why the Spurs are bringing him in. But to me, it makes a lot of sense because the overarching best facet of Chris Paul's entire career, the thing that he was the best at, was not winning a championship, was not taking a team over the hump and winning the title, but it was turning around organizations that were doing less than, not doing too well. He did that when he was in New Orleans. He took that team. They were not a very good team, and he brought them to the playoffs. He did it when he went to the Thunder, when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was even younger and he wasn't the player he is now. He elevated them. I believe Gallinari was on that team. And they became a playoff team. They far superseded what they did much better than you would have expected they would do. And he did the same thing when he went over to Phoenix. Phoenix was a garbage team for a long time. And when Chris Paul went there, he elevated the entire franchise, and they ended up making it to the finals. They really haven't been the same since Chris Paul left. Even though they brought in players who you could say are better in Durant and Beal, but Chris Paul, frankly, had a massive, massive impact on that team during the time he was there. They were a great team. And since he left, they haven't been the same. So for him to go to the Spurs, a team that is exactly that, they're a team that's dwelling in the cellar, they're in the basement, and they need someone like Chris Paul to take them out of it. They already have Wemby, and I think that this is a team that could overachieve with those two guys. All that Chris Paul needs is health. But I think 1 year, a great move, a fantastic move for the San Antonio Spurs. I love this deal. Then you have Jonas Valanciunas. He's going to go rot in Washington, and they're going to pay him $10 million for the next 3 years to do it. So $30 million heading Valanciunas' way, and he's not. They let Andre Drummond walk, and Drummond is going to head over to. I think I accidentally left Drummond off this list, but Drummond is going to be heading over to Philly, and they're replacing Drummond in Chicago. They're replacing him with Jalen Smith. So Jalen Smith, promising young talent, he's going to be taking his talents from Indiana, and he's going to sign with the Chicago Bulls. Now, the Bulls aren't going to be too good. They brought Josh Giddey along, and they got rid of Caruso, which, they're not going to be any better. They still have DeSumo, DeRozan, who knows what's going to happen with him, but the Bulls are going to be a mid-team, and Jalen Smith is going to be there for the next 3 seasons, $27 million, $9 million per year. And signing the same deal as that is Najee Marshall going to Dallas. Some people like him, some people don't. I'm undecided. I don't really have too much to say yet, but he's going to be way down the Mavericks bench over there. So another interesting move for Dallas. Then you have kind of an interesting one. I don't really understand why Orlando brought back Goga Bitadze for $25 million for the next 3 years. So that's over $8 million per year to pay a guy who, as the season went on, he played less and less and less and less. He was playing well earlier in the year, and then he just dropped out of the rotation. I don't know, was it injury? Not really sure, but that's a lot of money. Over $8 million for a guy who doesn't really play. Kind of a weird move there for Orlando, who also brought in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which was a good move, and then they kind of balanced it out with a weird move here with Bitadze. Then you have the Sixers bringing Kelly Oubre back. Now, Oubre was a good part of their team because at least he brings athleticism and defense. 2 years, $16.3 million, over $8 million per year. I'd rather have Oubre than Bitadze at that number. So good move there for the Sixers, bringing back Oubre. Then you have Max Christie going to the Lakers, $8 million per year for the next 4, so that's $32 million. The Lakers are giving Christie. I don't know if there's another team in the league who would have paid $8 million for Christie. So I guess the Lakers see something in him that nobody else really sees. A very bad, weird signing for the Lakers. Drew Eubanks is going to leave Phoenix, and he should leave Phoenix. Phoenix never really respected him. They never really played him, despite the times that he did play. He actually played okay. Eubanks could have probably done more for Phoenix than Phoenix allowed. So he's going to go over to Utah, perhaps setting the table for Utah trading away one of their big men, either Walker Kessler or Larry Markkinen. So it's going to be a 2-year, $10 million deal right there. And then you can take us down to maybe like the final 10 signings here where we go over to Aaron Holiday. I like Aaron Holiday a lot for this Rockets team. I mean, they have no reason not to bring back a guy like Aaron Holiday. They're a team who's in that young building phase, and they like scorers. The only problem for Holiday is that he's going to be working behind Cam Whitmore, who's already a good 6-man, and then Aaron Holiday is kind of that spark plug over there. But hey, I mean, it's $10 million for 2 years, $5 million each year. So, all the Holidays are having pretty successful NBA careers, and this is this means that the youngest Holiday brother is going to be here for another 2 years at least, and there's a good chance that he'll be here for long after that. So, a good deal for him staying with the Rockets, and who knows, maybe injuries will present itself, maybe a trade will present itself at some point, maybe he'll certainly be a movable guy at such an affordable deal right there if he starts to take off. Then you have Nick Batum. He finished his contract over with Philly, and he's going to be signing back with the Clippers. He's been with the Clippers before, and he's going back there. $9.6 million for 2 years, So that's just under $5 million per year for the next 2 seasons, and he's just gonna chill in LA. I'm sure he likes it in LA, and he's been here before. He'll be here again, and the team won't really be competing for anything. Then you have Kevin Love, $8 million, 2 years, $4 million per year to stay with Miami. He likes it there. He's been there for a while. Second stint there, and I guess he just wanted to stick around. The Heat are getting worse and worse each year. They overachieved when they made it to the finals a couple years ago, and then they got worse, and they're going to continue to get worse. DeAndre Jordan staying with the Nuggets, no news there. Alex Len staying with the Kings for whatever that's worth. DeLon Wright heading over to the Bucks if you care about that. Mason Plumlee is going to the Suns, and the Suns are going to have all the same issues with him. And then you have, or maybe they're going to try to get rid of Nurkic. Maybe bringing in Plumlee gives them the ability to get rid of Nurkic and Nurkic's bigger salary. Who knows? Plumlee, 1 year, $3.3 million. Garrett Temple staying with the Raptors, so a good deal for the Raptors to keep him. And Luka Garza staying with the Wolves. That's everything that I have right now. I'm just going to reload to see if there's any new notifications popping in, so we could literally say that we've gone through every single free agent, and it looks like that is the deal. It doesn't seem like any other signings have come in. So there you go. There's the 35 guy. Well, also there was the Andre Drummond, who I missed off of my list for whatever reason. The Andre Drummond contract to go to Philly is, I'm going to pull it up right now just so that we could say we really went through everybody. It's possible I missed someone. It's possible. So a 2-year deal for Andre Drummond, 2 years. And what's the amount? It couldn't have been for more than $4 or $5 million per year, maybe $10 million per year. It's a 2-year, $10 million contract is what it looks like. 2 years, $10 million for Andre Drummond to go to Philly. Hey, good move. I mean, he's going to probably get a lot of playing time behind Joel Embiid. They're going to want to play Embiid for as few minutes as possible so that he could hopefully be healthy come playoff time. But anyway, there are all the deals. And like I said, we're going to go into, and we're going to have plenty of time to look more into all these deals to say which teams did well when everything shakes out, which teams did not do well, which were the worst signings, the best signings. We'll be able to go through all of that in the future here on NBAV. But I wanted to do this quickly so that we could just go through all the free agents up until now, give you guys a quick take on it, which I don't think many other podcasts are doing that. So you got it here on NBAV. Like always, we're your source for a great time every time, and until next time, we are out.